Hi guys, it's Natalie. Happy December. It's December 1st. I decided I'm gonna start doing a few different YouTube videos, on book reviews. I just want to kind of, talk about some books, especially true crime books that I've read in the past year or so. And, in one in particular I'm gonna share, it's a case that I've kind of been focusing on a lot because it's a very strange case, and it's just very um just very odd and everything. So this book it's called Trace Evidence: The Hunt for the I-5 Serial Killer by Bruce Henderson, who's a #1 New York Times bestselling author. Shout out to Bruce Henderson on this book because it was really good. It was published in 1998, but this is and released in 98, but this is the newer version. I believe, let's see. I believe this version was published in 2013, I believe. Interesting. Yeah, about 2013, the republished. And I got this one because it has shocking updates, because things have changed since with this case, I guess. But I'm not gonna say much about the book, obviously, because I've read it and I don't want to ruin it for everybody. But yeah, Trace Evidence. I really like the book so much, I'll probably read it again. Because this is a really good case. So, the book, the I-5, if you don't know, the I-5 serial killer, there were actually two of them. There was one named Randall Woodfield that struck in the early 80s, I think. Well, there's another one, and he was nicknamed the I-5 Strangler, because he strangled his victims to death. His name was Roger Kibbe. He's dead now, but he was a serial killer that struck in, like, the Central Valley of California and the Sacramento, which is the capital of California. That area, so kind of, going east of the Bay Area of California and San Francisco, kind of that Bay Area going going east, sorry. I'm not from California, I've never lived in California, so I'm not really familiar with the area, only from the book. And, this guy killed one woman in 1977, and then he killed about six others in between 1986 and 1987, and then was apprehended in 1998. He was, basically, he was a man that didn't come from the best family. He was the oldest of 3 brothers. His brother was a homicide detective. He grew up with a mother that told him that she hated him, and she apparently abused him a lot. And he had a daughter. He was married twice. His first wife he had a daughter with, and then he married another woman that was described as being domineering and bitter, kind of bossing her husband around and stuff. But again, I'm not going to give much details because it's a book and I want you to read the book. You can buy it online, for, like, on eBay. You could buy it, like, on Amazon. You could probably buy it anywhere, really, like a used bookstore online. But yeah, it's a really good book. And the Roger Kibbe guy, he was really a strange guy, and he's also been featured on the true crime show Forensic Files, which is Forensic Files is my favorite true crime show. And my grandfather actually knew the narrator, Peter Thomas, because my grandfather was a filmmaker. Look up Andre Delavar. I think he probably knew my great-grandfather. Maybe it was my great-grandfather that he knew. I don't know. But yeah, he was a filmmaker, so that's how he knew him. And that Forensic Files episode is called Not For Everyone. It's season 3, episode 2. And, so basically the guy, you know, he was he killed a woman in 1987, that was a prostitute runaway, and he was convicted on that murder, I believe, because that was the one where they had the most DNA evidence, and DNA testing wasn't being used until after 86, I think, and they weren't using it very much until, like, I believe it was 1990, 1991. They were using DNA around then. So I think that's the reason why he wasn't convicted of the others, but, this book was published before, the first copy was published before the second, but basically in 2009, they linked Kibbe's DNA to 6 other victims, and so in order to avoid the death penalty, he pled guilty to those 6 murders, so that he couldn't get the death penalty, and then he was killed, actually, in his prison cell by his cellmate. I think his cellmate was called Jason Boudreaux. And this guy was in prison for killing his ex-girlfriend, and it's kind of ironic because Roger Kibbe was strangled to death in prison by his cellmate himself. And it's kind of ironic, too, because it's like this guy killed his ex-girlfriend, but yet he got so mad at this guy for killing a bunch of women. So I have no idea why he got mad about that. But maybe forensic experts watching this movie can chime in. But anyway, but yeah, I would definitely highly recommend this book, Trace Evidence. Really good read. It took me about maybe a month and a half to finish the book, because I read a lot of books at one time. But yeah, it's a really good book, and, you know, I'm not gonna give much detail into what goes on in the book, but I do know a lot about Roger Kibbe's life, like being a serial killer and stuff. Like, I think it was a combination of the way he turned out, I think partly because of how his mother treated him, and then also being married to a woman that was, like, domineering and bossy. I think maybe she pushed him over the edge, and then he caused him to go out and kill these women. Not excusing it, obviously, but it's possible what happened maybe just triggered him to, like, go out and murder these innocent women. It's horrible. I do know the names of his victims, so, and again, I'm not going to go into detail about their lives or anything, because, you know, the book, but, you know, spoiler, but, like, I remember he killed one woman in 1977 named Lou Ellen Burley, who was 21. She was, meeting Roger Kibbe for, like, a job interview, and, I guess he, like, lured her and then killed her, but they only found, I think it was 34 years later in 2011, he led police to the dump site of where her remains were in a place called Lake Berryessa in California. And they only found a piece of her bone, and then DNA was positively identified as being Lou Ellen Burley. And then and then 9 years later in 1986, or I should say 8.5 years later, because it wasn't quite, you know, it was like early 86, he killed a street prostitute named Laura Hedick from Modesto, California. And then he killed another woman, I guess she was also a prostitute. Her name was Barbara Ann Scott. She was 29. And I think her body was found on a golf course in July of 1986. And then he killed another woman named Stephanie Brown, who was 19, almost 20, in July 15th of 1986, and her body was found in, like, a cornfield ditch, off of near Interstate 5, and then they found her car parked there. And Stephanie Brown's case is probably the saddest of them all, because, like, she wasn't even supposed to be out at that time, but she was helping out a friend, and she got lost, and it's a tragic story, but... And then, I believe in August of 1986, he killed another woman named Charmaine Sabra, who was with her mother after their car broke down on the interstate in the middle of the night, and then he offered to help them both, said he only had a 2-seater, took Charmaine, I guess, to a deserted area and killed her. And this woman was a mother of 3. She had a young child at home, so she had to, it's sad. And then he killed another woman, named Karen Finch in June of 1987. And beforehand, he had killed another woman named, what was her name? I'm trying to remember. Think. Catherine Kelly Quinones, I think, was her name. She was also a prostitute, I think. And then in September of 87, he killed the 17-year-old runaway named Darcy Frackenpole. And that was also very sad, too, because the girl was young and, just awful. And then he was apprehended by this woman that he offered to take her for a ride. And then she fought back, and that's how ultimately he got arrested for the crime. So, again, that's all I'm going into, but I'm just kind of gonna talk, I really like to delve into the lives of certain serial killers because I like to see, what their family life was like why did they turn out to be a certain way, serial killer-wise? Was it their family? Was it just, something that happened in their life? And from what I've discovered is a lot of these people, have serial killers come from really bad, family backgrounds, or they came from good families, but maybe they were bullied, or maybe they were abused. I don't know. But with this man, I think it was, him having a domineering and abusive mother and then being married to a woman that also bossed him around and everything. It was, very confusing to me about how this guy turned out, but then I could also understand, why he was upset why he turned out the way he did. And again, it's still not an excuse though to go around killing innocent women that, they were human beings and they deserve to live and everything. It's really sad. But yeah, basically this guy was really troubled, and, it's sad that some people in this world don't have a parent that really loves them or treats them with respect. It's really sad, why these people turn out the way they do. But I'm always into serial killers and, true crime, and it's one of my favorite things, and I love to talk about it with anyone that's interested. And so I'm probably going to be posting more videos on my YouTube about, about true crime stories that I like, and, everything true crime. And I really also like Forensic Files, which is a true crime show, and I like On the Case of Paula Zahn, she's great. I do sometimes watch 48 Hours. There's so many, really good true crime shows out there. Investigation Discovery has a lot of good episodes on, excuse me, on, different cases, and it's interesting to see, so. But yeah, definitely give the book Trace Evidence a try. Give it a try because it's really good, and yeah, it's a really good book, and I hope you try it and listen to it, because, try it and read it because it's great. And I believe they also have an audiobook version too, so you can listen to it, I guess, on Amazon Prime or wherever you can listen to audiobooks, I guess. And yeah, and they have like, and then they have like pictures of like the crime scene and the killer and everything like that. And it's yeah, you can either get a hardcover or paperback. I like this paperback because, you know, and this is like the more updated version, so it has like updates over like what happened and like, you know, what was featured and everything. So yeah. But yeah, it's a really good book, and I hope you will give it a read. But yeah, I'm gonna end the vlog here. Yeah, everything's been going well with me. Had a good Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, I came down with COVID. But I'm all better now, testing negative. So yeah, I'm all better. I hope everyone else had a good Thanksgiving holiday. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, hope, you know, everything was good this week. Anyway, I'll be back in the next video. I'm not sure what I'm going to post next, but I will see you all soon. Bye!